What's happening, Panda Nation? Peter Von Panda here. I am going live one more time because I want to talk about the new MacBook Air. Now, I've actually got myself set up with a new rig here because I'm trying to just also experiment to see if this actually streams with any better quality than my old rig, because that didn't seem to be living up to my expectations. So I think it actually is, which is kind of frustrating and weird to me. But basically, what I wanted to come out and talk about is the brand new MacBook Air from Apple. And I know it's kind of during coronavirus, or it is right in the kind of the height of it, and everyone is at home. But Apple basically launched the new MacBook Air without any fanfare. I actually didn't even know about it until I saw some reviews from kind of the big YouTubers on YouTube. And so I just found out, and as soon as I heard about it, which was, I don't know, a couple days ago, I actually went ahead and ordered one, and it is scheduled to be delivered here next week. Now, the funny thing about it is I kind of changed my mind, and I went ahead and tried to order another one that I think would be maybe a little better future-proofing, or have a little bit better future-proofing. And so I wanted to step it up, so I went back to order it again the other day, yesterday, I guess. And what I've noticed is that the ship times on these things are way out in April now. So could it be possible that the MacBook Airs already sold out, despite the fact that they were one of the least hyped products ever? It's possible. If you want one, I would say go out and get one. I'm going to quick talk about why I went ahead and decided to upgrade my MacBook Air to the new MacBook Air. There are a couple things that have happened here in the new MacBook Air. One is that the price point has actually come down. So now it is $999 to get into the entry-level MacBook Air. I think that's probably a pretty capable machine. It's a Core i3, it's a dual core, and I think for most people like you and me that web surf or watch videos or do word processing and kind of light activities on a laptop, that is probably more than enough. However, I went ahead and changed my mind on that, because for $100 more you can upgrade to the Core i5, and that's a quad-core processor. So it seems like for marginally more money you get a significantly better processor. Now, I don't know that really matters in the long term for the work that I do. Probably encoding these edited videos is probably the most processor intensive thing that I do. And so, and I let those things run in the background, so it doesn't really matter to me if it's done in 5 minutes or 15 minutes or an hour. But it's something that has to be done. And I don't like a lot of lag on stuff. I just like working at my own speed. And so I thought having that other processor for the additional $100 was probably worth the upgrade. The other thing, and I'm gonna escalate the upgrades here. The other thing that was an improvement is more hard drive space. So you get a 256 gig SSD in the new MacBook Air standard. The old one was 128 gigs, and that actually worked fine for me. And I had kind of Dropbox doing its smart sync and stuff like that, so I wasn't like slamming the hard drive with a bunch of stuff and taking up all the storage. But I would have loved to have had those extra gigabytes. And the real reason is when you think of it as like 128 or 256, it's just twice as much. But it's really actually more than that, because you have 128 gigs, but a lot of it is used by the operating system. So when you go to 256, you may be getting like 3 times as much usable storage on it. Now, the last thing, and the real reason that sold me on upgrading to the new MacBook Air, was the improved keyboard. So the original keyboard, I think, was what they call like the butterfly mechanism, where you had like 2 lifts on the edges of the keys, and it didn't have a lot of travel, and that was to get the computer very slim. I actually never had as much of a problem with it as some people were complaining about. I actually thought it worked fine. It didn't have like the really satisfying key travel of a desktop computer, a standard keyboard. But I never really had an issue with it, and for me, having the slim size, the portability of it was kind of the most important thing. But now they've gone back to, I think, the scissor mechanism, and there's more travel, and apparently the keys feel more satisfying, and that's probably good if you're doing a lot of typing, and that's kind of what I do. And so I just thought, hey, why not go to the new keyboard that feels better, I think is more durable. You know, people complained about the butterfly mechanism breaking or getting dust in it and not working and things like that. So, you know, hopefully this older mechanism is more durable. But that was really the piece that sold me on it. So all of those other things, the processor wasn't really the issue. I had an i5 in my old processor, but getting more storage space, that definitely was more interesting. But then getting the new keyboard was the most interesting. I will also tell you that having upgraded laptops over the last few years, maybe even annually, one of the best things about getting a new laptop is the kind of built-in default runtime and battery life. It's one of those things that over time, as your battery tends to wear, you get shorter and shorter runtimes on it. And because it kind of wears out slowly, you don't really feel it, right? It goes from all day work down to, you know, let's say you get 8 hours down to 7.5, down to 7. And over a couple years, you've probably lost a couple hours of total runtime. And it's fine. You know, usually you can manage that. And oftentimes the batteries last so long that, you know, you're just kind of getting down to a full day's worth of work, and nobody's really working 8 hours. I mean, some people, I guess, are, but, you know, between meetings and shutting things down and walking around and stuff like that and going to lunch, you don't necessarily need 8 total hours of runtime. But when you move back up to a brand new laptop, and you get like your 10 hours or 11 hours, that's also very striking. It's not one of those things where I would pay to upgrade at that point for that, but it's kind of one of the nice things that when you're flipping a laptop and going back into a new one, and then you are working all day, and you're like, oh, this is usually when my computer starts giving me a warning about battery life, and what's happening, Dylan Murphy? Hello, brother. And you get like to that point and you have 3-4 hours left, you're like, holy smokes, man, it's nice having a new laptop. So I appreciate everyone jumping on. Give me a like. Are you guys getting the new MacBook? So I guess this is my point, is it seems a lot like these are evolutionary upgrades. It seems like there were some pieces that came from feedback from MacBook users. You know, I am curious, would you be willing to jump into a new laptop like that for basically those 3-ish reasons for the upgrade? Or is this kind of a money grab? Is Apple a little slow to iterate? You know, the MacBook Air, I think, is a really nice laptop. It's pretty affordable. It's got a great screen. The chassis is great. It feels like a quality computer and, you know, has been my go-to for a long time. But I do find them kind of expensive, and man, I don't know. I like the idea that Apple has gotten under $1,000 on a laptop, and so you can get a capable machine for it. But man, I just feel like I'm being soaked for money all the time. Now, this is my own opinion. I don't have the MacBook yet. I know a lot of people have them. Obviously, the reviews were probably embargoed until this week. I certainly would have loved Apple to have provided me one, but no such luck. Chesty, what's happening? What's happening, dude? Welcome to the live stream here. Glad to have you. So that's it. I thought I would get it. I would unbox it. I would definitely compare the keyboard, which is kind of the most interesting and physical and observable thing, I think, the keyboard differences. So I will show those to you once I get it in hand, and we will take a very, very close, zoomed-in look at what the keys are like, and I'll give you my commentary on, is it a marginal improvement? Is it really worth the upgrade or not? So I'm looking for it. I'm waiting for the 14-inch. Yeah, that would be sweet, man. And actually, did I just see that like the MacBook Pro might be available in like, is that the 14-inch? Is that the one you were talking about? The MacBook Pro available in a new size too. I really love the MacBook Pros. My only problem with those are the price on them, man. They are yes, okay. They are expensive. I used to have a MacBook Pro. I really, really loved it. I ran that thing for as long as I could. Eventually, what got me to flip out of it was, and so I was talking about a little earlier, the battery just would not last all day. And if you know anything about Apple laptops, upgrading them, servicing them is a pain. They glue a lot of stuff in. The advantage of it is that they're nice and tight, nice and sturdy, sturdy lady. But and they're really compact, but they are super hard to service. And I don't know that you can do them on your own, and I don't know that Apple even does them. I mean, you know, because like I said, they kind of taper or tier like the batteries to fit them in. Thoughts on right to repair? You know, Diego Dan, hey, thanks. That's a great question. Thoughts on right to repair? This is a little bit of a tangent, but I am kind of agnostic to it because I kind of get both sides of it. And as a consumer, I don't necessarily. What state do I live? Illinois, Chesty, Illinois. But from Detroit. I'm a Michigander at heart. So I think it's kind of two camps. Do you remember when the Apple iPhone came out and you couldn't replace the battery? And I remember having a BlackBerry and you could just buy those batteries for like $8 and swap a new one in, and you didn't have to worry about charger, and I could carry 4 batteries and keep my phone alive all day. That was pretty awesome. And then when I heard about sealed in, non-replaceable, non-user serviceable batteries, I was like, what? It doesn't make any sense to me. But I would say that the ability to not necessarily have to make it serviceable allows you to do some really amazing things in the packaging, the design. You don't have to have like quick disconnects. You don't have to wrap the battery in basically another package and then have like a tray and all that. And it allows you to make things that are really beautiful and more functional. And a lot of people don't want to service their things anyway. It's kind of a little bit like Ferrari 355s. You basically cannot service your car at home. Missouri, undergrad in Illinois, you had to work for that state. Yeah, you know what? I can tell you this: in its current state, I would not be a retiree in Illinois. The day I can stop working would be the day I leave Illinois. So because I'm usually tied down here for jobs, but I would never pay the property taxes and the taxes here in retirement because there are a lot of other better places to live that are a lot cheaper. Yup, Chesty, you're my man. You're my man. Missouri is a great state for living free, baby. Live free or die hard. So I get the idea of having serviceable stuff because I used to love just unscrewing the bottom panel of a laptop when I was younger and getting new RAM when I could afford it and swap it in and close it up and get that improvement. And then every few years, instead of buying a new computer for cheaper exercise, I could upgrade the computer and keep it running. The problem with that was, at the time, and I think it was I was using Dell computers, they weren't beautiful. They weren't nice. They weren't high quality or anything like that. They were just good workhorses, and they served my needs. But as you get older, I think, not just older, but as you get older and maybe more productive and you're doing more professional work, right? You have an opportunity cost now, right? Should I keep doing work, or should I take a day out of my life and go find the right RAM and find compatible RAM and do this exercise? Whereas maybe it's worth me just paying for computers at work so I can stay productive, kind of stay in my sweet spot and do things. So I get it. I think that there is definitely space for both products. Highly home serviceable, upgradable, modular hardware, as well as very inflexible, basically Apple computer stuff. And a lot of people are going that way. Diego Dan, if I had a Tesla, I don't think it... Diego Dan says, if I had a Tesla, I don't think I'd want anyone working on it except Tesla. Yeah, so I mean that's a great example, right? And Ferrari, because you have to drop out the motor to change the belts and to do the service and all that other stuff on it, like, because it's such a big process, and Ferrari's going to do it. It actually helps Ferrari, one, make sure that you're using their services, but it's also I don't know, it's kind of elitist. It's just a different tier of experience, right? I'm not saying elitist in a bad way, because you can want beautiful things. I really want things to look beautiful. I think we all like an aesthetic. If we can, we'd have interior decorators. I'm in my little office here in the Panda Research Institute, and it's just a working office, right? I don't really... Honda Civic Si is my car. Oh man, I love that car. I've always loved all the SIs. A buddy of mine had one, and years ago he sold it after he had a family. And I remember telling him at the time, dude, he wasn't going to get a lot of money for the one he had, and I was like, man, just keep it. But between insurance and storing cars and driving them and maintaining them, I get why we don't just keep cars like we do like old electronics or something. But man, I did enjoy that car. It's a car I'm kind of nostalgic for, I guess I should say. It's kind of one of those that I thought was like aspirational yet affordable, and so there were cars that you could have a great time in, and you wouldn't have to dream about it. You could actually get into them at some point too. Kind of like the Integras, and there were some other cars like that too. So serviceable or not, I just think that there are both. I'm almost of the camp where you don't split the difference though. So you don't try to make it partially serviceable. What's interesting is that I don't know if they're still doing it, but I thought a few years back Google had a project, or Alphabet had a project, where they were making basically a modular phone, where you would buy the screen, you would buy the storage you wanted, you would buy the processor you wanted, you buy the camera, like a small camera, a big camera, whatever, and you could basically Lego a camera together. And so that is the epitome of being user serviceable. And that was like something where you could just build exactly what you wanted. I don't know whatever happened to that. I thought it was kind of a interesting idea where, hey, I want, just a good smartphone, but I want like a crazy good camera for shooting videos or taking pictures or whatever it might be. So you have like the liberty of doing that, right? So I don't know. I can see both camps on that, but I definitely like innovation and beauty on it too. So 17. Oh, that's a new one, man. That's a new one. So that's it, man. Any other questions? That was kind of my long rant today on the MacBook Air, the new changes on it. I'm not sure if it's worth it yet, but I am looking forward to checking it out. If I didn't have this channel and share those changes with you, I wouldn't be picking one up, because my 2018 MacBook Air is still crushing it. It's still, the battery life is great. It meets all my needs, but I'm pretty interested in checking out what the new one is. So that's it for right now. Hopefully this stream came across a little bit better in terms of quality. When I was growing up in Detroit, there was a construction company called Koala, like the bear, -T, Koala T. What's my thoughts on OLED TVs? Man, I love them. I think the OLED is right. It's where the black, when it shows the black on the screen, it is truly black. It's not kind of like dark black, right? And so that is pretty interesting to me. They're really useful for some things. Have you seen those workout devices? I think they're called Mirror. It's a piece of glass and then it has a screen behind it, and you can connect with a trainer and things like that, and then it'll display it. I think those will use like an OLED screen, I'm assuming. The way they do that hologram at the Disney Star Wars ride is basically a mirror and an OLED TV behind it, and so it just projects Rey, and it looks like a hologram because you don't see kind of that haziness of the black shining around, because it does a true black. So it's really interesting to do it in that way, and to have that capability. Here's another rant I have. I think the average consumer obsesses about some of those things the way tech people do, and they will never notice it. So I have an LED TV, but it's not an OLED TV, and I'm watching it, and I don't ever think, like, especially in the dark scenes, like, man, that dark looks a little purple, or looks a little bright, or hazy, or foggy, or glowing to me. It just doesn't. I don't notice it. I might notice it maybe even more on a cell phone or something that's like close to my face. I'm not really sure, but I think that the improvement there is probably good, but it is probably not something that I would appreciate, particularly given that there seems to be a pretty high price point between going from kind of LED to OLED or QLED and some of these other things. I just don't know that I would notice, and it would be probably lost on me. It's kind of like when they talk about like the refresh rates and some of the audio specs on different things. I'm sure I'd appreciate it, but I don't know that going from like I have like a $100 soundbar and subwoofer connected to my TV, and I think it works great. I know you can go to like $1,000 systems, and I'm sure they sound amazing. But to me, I don't know that it is 9 times or 10 times as amazing. So I would love it. I would love OLED, and I think the prices will come down, and certainly when they're cheaper, I mean, I might be into it, but I don't have it. PS or Xbox, I don't do much right now, but I will tell you, in terms of gaming, this could be a whole nother video. Command & Conquer Remastered is supposed to be coming out. I used to play a lot of Command & Conquer, and what I guess we don't realize is that those were like 640 pixel screens at that time, and so I thought maybe if I run it on my computer it'd be a lot of fun, but apparently it's not because they're so blurry. But Command & Conquer Remastered is supposed to be in 4K. It's supposed to just be like all the same objects and units and all that stuff, but just kind of rendered for 4K. I can't wait. I think it's supposed to come out. I think it's on pre-sale right now on Steam or something. And it's it's kind of expensive, $100 or $130, but I haven't pre-ordered it because I'm a little worried that it might not be released right when they say they're gonna be released. But if it does come out, I am buying it, and I am stoked about trying it out. And hopefully, some of my college buddies or something would jump on and try it. And I tell you what, if anyone else has played Command and Conquer on this channel, I would love to take you on, so if we can get a network game going, to challenge you guys and see if you can take out my base and my ore. All right, Justy, thanks for dropping in, brother. I appreciate you sticking with us and being on the channel. Yeah, I think we share a lot of similar hobbies and interests, but thanks so much, man, and enjoy that Civic. But for the rest of you guys, thanks so much for sticking with us. If you are homebound because of coronavirus or whatever, I am planning on doing some more live streams here. So if you have questions, feel free to put them in the comments. I want to share more with you guys. And like I said, I've got a bunch of stuff on the way and a bunch of stuff here. So you might be able to see my stuff is all more watch videos. There's a watch video I'm working on that's coming up pretty soon here, so stay tuned for that. I think you'll like it. So I've got a lot of stuff that I'm unboxing and taking a look at and seeing what's worth sharing with you guys. So I have a lot of cool stuff hopefully coming up here soon. But that is it. Peter Von Panda out.